Um, Alright, so we have Chinese colony again. We have expensive silicon, which is interesting. There's not too much silicon, but there's a lot of low ones. Combo tiles, super spot. God, I want this spot. I almost want to play this game just to get this spot. For expensive, I would say. I would say expensive, yeah. Maybe. Maybe even scientist. No, that's crazy. Other than that, I really don't see many good founds. There's like a scav found somewhere here. Yeah, like Space OD is going to claim. Pops is going to claim a robot over here. Hi Ho is claiming a robot over here, which is a decent robot. And expansive, once again, by Gameslayer with mediocre iron. He definitely made it work the first game. And the fact that Blues and BB Had are in the other game are probably making him a bit more comfortable this time. Although I'm sure he would have rather won that game. First upgrade was by Space Oddity, being Scav being Scav. And I would like to see some silicon and glass. The problem with that is that it's a bit early because it's going to take so long to move in there. However, Chinese colony and double the price for glass, by the way, is going to really make for a very difficult situation. And Gameslayer actually didn't build steel because iron was double the price as well. And he instead is moving in the single glass kiln, which is a bit of a question mark move, but it does seem to work fine enough. It's not a terrible thing. And he definitely knows just how important glass is going to be, so I'm going to expect him to move into 2 steel mills and a glass furnace. I don't think he will build a triangle, and I don't think he'll claim aluminium, even though aluminium is really getting expensive. But 2 robots are going to keep it low, especially with Pops having to sell down some of it, and being in combo tiles and all. That being said, everyone is at HQ level 2. I think Hi-Ho seems to be well set, but he's going to spend his advantage to build a geothermal plant, which is a bit questionable, and even have to spend a goon on it because, well, you know, geothermal level 2 is super expensive, and power started at half price, and one of your opponents is a scavenger. Although the other one is a robot, so it might not be too bad of a decision, but it's definitely going to waste his advantage quite a bit, in my opinion. Gameslayer seems to be well set up, I think, for upgrades eventually, especially since Pops is selling down. Is he selling though? He actually built a steel mill over here. I expect that he just doesn't want to flood it, and he will claim this tile though. But the fact that he has 1 steel mill here and 1 steel mill here is a bit sad. And the fact that he's making silicon cheap also is making me sad. I do question where he's spending half a silicon. Sorry, a full silicon. Because oh, there is this glass mill. Oh my god, glass mill. Glass kiln. Space Oddity first to HQ level 3, I believe. Yes, moving into more glass and some power, which is both good and questionable because life support is where it's at this point. Life support is getting out of hand because the colony did start with quite a few habitats, whereas power is only going to keep your death down, which frankly Space Oddity probably realizes is a bit of an important thing after last game. But you do want to make money, and glass is going to be very good for it, but you more money than that. You want food money, you want reactor money, which Gameslayer is moving into, because he followed into HQ level 3 quite a bit after that, sorry. Everyone is HQ level 3 at this point though, with the robots finally fixing their territory a bit, at least Hi-Ho is, and Pops is moving into more steel, which had gotten quite expensive at this point. Everyone is making money, which is cheerful. This wind turbine I don't like, though. Yes, you need more power, maybe. Actually, you don't. I would say that you would be much better with a triangle of glass, because you really need cash. I think that at this point, the quick upgrade advantage is going to be wasted a bit by Space OT, and in fact, Gameslayer is now outpacing everyone in upgrades, and I expect him to move into more steel and food. Kill the pirates over here, get more food. And his water is abysmal. I actually think he'll move into a patent lab. And his aluminium is actually abysmal, so I expect him to build another one here and maybe build a patent lab as his last claim. No, instead he's going to claim a geothermal plant. And he's not going to destroy the pirates. That's not something I expected. And in fact, I'm not sure what his last claim is even. But Space OD is HQ level 4, and I'm seeing what I like to see. I'm seeing food, I'm seeing reactor. One farm, though, is a bit bad. Okay, it's very bad. I would much rather see this wind turbine over here as a second farm, or as a, a third glass cone, as I mentioned before. Hi-Ho is no one seems to be falling too far behind this game. However, I do favor Gameslayer so far in terms of the market that he had moved in. He did get frozen, though, as punishment for being ahead. Which, by the way, people had not been doing that much, which is freezing and mutinies. Just a little bit. Pops is making power. Everyone is making a bit of power, except for, well, actually, Gameslayer did move into Geo finally. Hi-Ho is having the smallest amount of debt because of that early Geo, but he is having debt, which is a problem. The fact that he's shipping water, and he's shipping from afar, he's shipping aluminium, he's running steel mills. Can't make power money. Pops is the first to a patent lab, though, and the patent lab is had just been won in an auction, which I had masterfully ignored. Gameslayer is moving into a Pleasure Dome. It's going to be a weak Pleasure Dome with 2 robots, even though there's a Scav and an expansive player. It's going to be probably just below mediocre. I like seeing these reactors. I like seeing these reactors. I like seeing these reactors. I don't necessarily like the expensive water. It's definitely a big problem for Gameslayer. It's a problem for Pops. It's less of a problem for Space Oddity. In fact, it's the only person who is living off of water at the moment is Space Oddity.
I hate those filthy bandits.
But while I was blinking, Space Oddity actually failed to defend. And Gameslayer and Pops are going to take her. Sorry, I'm not really doing well today, but Space Oddity seems to be doing worse than me. Sorry for bad jokes. Gameslayer has the Pleasure Dome, which is, you can see it's okay. It's not superb, but it's quite okay. Nanotech for Pops is going to be a decent choice. Superconductor is going to be a big choice for him, especially since the dust storm is coming. I wish there was a good on power, but alas, the stars have not aligned for that to happen. Because his power is going to be huge in just a moment. To be more precise, in 16 seconds, it's already big now. Gameslayer is definitely struggling with debt. He's moved into wind turbines, which is going to be a big thing with the dust storm, though these are very mediocre wind turbines. In fact, these are weak wind turbines. It's going to be fine. He can build an off-world, which, by the way, is good in this game. Really good. Space Oddity is going to be a big sub, though, this time. With good production all around. HQ level 5. Definitely upgraded a bit too quickly, it would seem.
Sold.
And Hi-Ho has an optimization center, which is a good thing to see. Except the prices aren't really that high, except for life support, you know. And he's not optimizing yet. That is a curious thing. Moving into electronics.
The black market is open for business.
has been upgraded.
But he's just letting his things stay and do nothing. He's moving into water production. So I have to question that a lot. That is not a decision I would make. Water is not too high, and he has a lot of it. In the meantime, GameSlayer upgraded to HQ level 5. He has the Energy Vault, which is not super important because you can see that you can blink and the power is dead with Dust Storm. That lone wind turbine, by the way, is really powerful,
I hate
really
those
good.
filthy bandits.
It's gonna get worse, of course, as the the Dust Storm is going to settle. Space Oddity is going to make a lot of money. At this point, you have to question where you want to invest your mind. Do you want to build an off-world, or do you want to find Space Oddity, which is, by the way, a very reasonable choice, except it's a bit expensive, perhaps, yet. Do you want to defend yourself, which is a big choice. And the fact that there are no holograms for 3 games in a row on my end is a little bit interesting. Creates very difficult dynamics, very difficult to build off-worlds. So I question if a hacker array is a good decision in this game, with chems being kind. No, actually, chems are okay. Electronics, I would say, are the out of favor production here, meaning that Hi-Ho could easily hack some. However, defending yourself is
Methods continue
hardly a
to
bad
improve.
choice, ever.
Optimization routine successful.
GameSlayer is sitting on money. He's also sitting on C levels of debt, whereas Pops is sitting on D levels of debt in spite of his huge power production. You can see that power is already going way back. Part of it is Hi-Ho, who is consuming 4.5,
New land is available for auction.
4.7, because of, well, I think this is a big clue as to why there are power problems in this game. The fact that he still, yeah, he went through with both upgrades. Not something I like. In the meantime, a medium tile is this one. That wasn't the actual natural auction. That's a bit interesting, I think. Pops definitely could use that tile, so that he can reuse his triangle, and he moves into more power again. He's in D levels of dead, as is GameSlayer. But GameSlayer is really well set up. He has 2 goons. Off-worlds are amazing. At this point, at Sol 5, 720 for food sands, and food is less than 100. Because the AI really likes food, apparently. Hi-Ho is going to attack GameSlayer. It's a bit early. You don't have an off-world. He has an off-world. It's going to be difficult for Hi-Ho to go through with this attack, which is why he sells out of GameSlayer. But instead, I would imagine he wants to build an off-world, which he does, and which he is doing. And
The engineers have advanced.
I quite like that, because GameSlayer does not have thinking machines. In fact, no one has thinking machines. I'm surprised Popsy Sock still does not have thinking machines. He is going to them right now, though. GameSlayer is going to die to that, I think, this game, which is hardly surprising. But if his off-world can be attacked, and mind you, slowdown strikes at 2,000, EMPs at 10,000, mutinies at 14,000, and goons at 50,000, that's a bit expensive. GameSlayer is going to earn quite a bit from the sub, as is going to be Pops. Hi-Ho is going to have to rely on his off-world, which he is building and he will have. I quite like how he's set. I don't like his debt, because you see he had the least debt out of the 3 remaining players, but
Our fortune awaits.
this train of water blimps is a bit concerning still, especially since water is worth nothing and you can really start producing it. You can just turn these off and save a lot of debt. But because debt was less of a problem, I think he's going to be fine. Gameslayer, on the other hand, if he doesn't die to debt, might win this game. He has an offworld, he's sending food. Unfortunately, that's his only advanced building
We have a
except for that
hard to come by
pretty
land claim
decent pleasure
available
dome.
to the highest
The
bidder.
fact that it was never challenged certainly creates uh, for a good. I lost my train of thought. The fact that it was never challenged makes it pretty good. Otherwise, it would have been mediocre. But yeah, it worked out. Which maybe is actually a good point, because there are two robots, people are less likely to go for a pleasure dome, which means it's a good pleasure dome. Pops is definitely in the most problematic of situations, having not moved into an offworld, which he can do. He can totally do it, but he isn't. Which leaves me wondering why. Gameslayer, on the other hand, is repaying some debt, he's buying his own stock, he is going to move in this. Ooh, pardon me. A second offworld, and that's already a bit too much of an advantage, I think. Perpetual motion by Pops. Um, you want FI. Financial instruments is the patent here. Everyone is effectively in D-debt. You really want financial instruments. Hi-Ho may have repaid some debt. He's going to get attacked after attacking Gameslayer a bunch more, because Gameslayer is going to be making crazy money, because he's expensive. He has a lot of claims. He doesn't have a lot of raw resources. He only has one single water tile. He effectively had been relying on this crazy water by Hi-Ho, this pretty, maybe slightly excessive water by Pops, and this excessive water by the AI. And that's a really good call, not moving to a second water pump. I can imagine that his original plan was to go for slam drilling, but the situation happened to be such that he never needed to. And that's a mutiny for Gameslayer, which is a big thing. He has two mutinies. He's going to probably assume that both of these offworlds are goons, which is true. He's also going to buy higher odd, and I don't think Pops is really standing a good chance. He's stuck in D levels of debt. Firmly, he is just barely moving into. He just barely moved into an offworld. Hi-Ho had been launching for a while, but he's also having a massive stock disadvantage. And the fact that Gameslayer owns more than half of Space Oddity is certainly making him so much more expensive. No one wants aluminium, which is understandable because it's not worth that much.
Bidding closed.
Alright. You can see that not a lot of optimization had been going on. Which in a way is understandable because somehow the prices are not too volatile this game, which tends to happen with the expensive players in the game. And crazy AI stuff. Now, this is something I would like to say I don't like. Max upgrades on food with the AI who had pretty much for the entire game had been spamming food is a bit too much, and the incredible sends that he could have gotten to if he had built a second offworld really making bang for Gameslayer. He definitely made the right decision to identify just how amazing the offworld is and how important it is to have two offworlds. Haiku actually moved into a second one, which was way too late. And at this point, Gameslayer has a massive stock advantage, massive offworld advantage, massive everything advantage, really, except for upgrades, which he don't really need because he's expensive and he can make something work no matter what. And frankly, His real money lies in the off-worlds. Eventually, Pleasure Dome was challenged, but it took way too long, and no VR. But well, it's understandable because
We caught a dirty rat trying to break our
he,
stuff.
he, he wouldn't have been in the Pleasure Dome
Not surprised,
otherwise.
just
Still,
disappointed in you.
a lot of mutinies intercepted. So Gameslay has 2 mutinies which he's going
Off-road
to
shipment launched.
use,
Get all of them?
most definitely.
Affirmative.
At least one of them I expect to be used. They both moved out of deep levels of debt. He slowed down, I'm not sure I like that at all. He maybe forgot that thinking machines are in game. But Pops, in spite of having his massive patent advantage and a cash lead at the moment, is not doing a good job. By the way, you can just auto-launch. When food is just almost 900 a cent, you can probably auto-launch.
Off-world market is assembled.
Sub income is through the roof, almost 2000 a second. Hi-ho, I think moving into an early power source was a bit questionable, although it did work out okay for you. I think the big problem was water. Just too much water, too much money spent on upgrades, and not
Successful
quickly enough
off-road
moving into
shipment.
off-worlds.
Make room for the black
And, well, you weren't really well set for hack array. I would say it's more of...
Off-world shipment launched.
I'm actually not sure who could have
All of the money.
hacked this game. It's difficult to say. I think Pops had a good moment where he could have hacked electronics, but other than that, there was not really too much of an opportunity for hackers in this game. And it would seem like GameSlayer is selling his own stock because he's confident he can get to the buy very shortly. Which is very understandable. He's making that brilliant move and just let me sell my stock and get the money I need to buy you out. Cancelling sends is not very useful because food is very cheap. But he will be there shortly, before the send even goes through, and he has got this game in the bag. And GameSlayer picks up his second win, which shall be documented immediately.